It is 6.
Ready.
Conflict of interest.
All right, it's wrong. All right, welcome everyone. I call the, oh my God, what month is it? It is September 2024 Parks and Recreation Board meeting to order. Before we move on to the agenda items, I'd like to acknowledge our hybrid meeting format. Board meetings and the public can now attend in person or via Teams. We'll now take roll call. Please say here when I call your name and position number. So we've got position 1, Laura, and I believe she's not here today. Right, she's not online? Okay. Position 2, Malia. Here. Position 3, Nicholas.
Here.
Position 4, Sheila. Here. Position 5, Manny.
Here.
Position 6, Maggie.
Here.
Position 7, that's me, I'm here. Position 8, Barbie, not here. Position 9, Jake.
Here.
Awesome. In addition, we have the following city staff in attendance: Parks and Recreation Director Nick Stroup, and Parks and Recreation Administrative Coordinator Tanisha Tadme. I will now invite a motion to approve the July minutes of order and content.
Motion to approve.
Second. All right, motion's made by Maggie, seconded by Sheila. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Unanimously. Got a couple of friends in the audience today. I'd like to welcome any public comment. Dave?
Let's see, the folks at Shelton Forest would like you to think about the Meridian parcel that ENR currently owns as a future home for the city dog park. We can acquire that property for parks. There's a lot of level ground there. There are some trees for the dogs to run around, but it should be a suitable location for the dog park. Friends of North Creek Forest is a bit upset about the construction rubble from the 195th project being dumped on the road at the bottom of the forest, because that posed a safety hazard for kids who were using the forest. That's all I need to say.
Okay, Whitney asked, I'm Joanne Allen, and Whitney asked me to come and talk about the dog that once upon a time was at Doug Allen Sports Field. And the story behind the dog is that after Doug died, 3 months later, the dog that was his when he lived with us passed away also. And so when they cut down the tree to make the opening bigger, Mick still working?
Yes. Yes.
Mick worked his magic and turned the stump into a dog. And that dog became kind of a pet for a great many people, kids a lot, and they dressed him up. I dressed him up, depending on the holidays. That's the Christmas dog. And then when, I guess he ended up getting very bug-eaten or whatever, and finally at some point, his face fell off. And so I asked the dog to be removed because that was really yucky. So anyway, and the dog was stored for a while, probably until it got whatever, probably rotted, which is why it disappeared. So anyway, the foundation had some fundraisers and stuff, and we raised the money to replace the dog with something more long-lasting. And then we didn't hear anything about it, and then Nick said the guy passed away, and stuff happened anyway, and we just kind of didn't pay much attention to it anymore. And then Whitney called me and said, this is resurfacing because the money has been found, that money, which I'm sure is nowhere near enough to make it be a something metal or whatever, but we're open, as a family, we are open to somehow getting the dog back. I'm not sure how that works or how it had happened, but we're open to it. We're also okay with if it doesn't, but I don't know what else to do with that money either. So, I mean, time has worked its magic, I guess, and we get it. Most people around probably don't know the history of the dog anymore.
When did it get removed? When was the final year?
It was like 2019, 2020.
There's a lot of people that would remember.
17, no,
No,
18,
it was after I was on, so,
Okay,
you know.
yeah.
I don't think we should let this die. I think we should push forward. Is my
Yeah, it was
opinion.
frustrating when it happened, but I've had to come to grips with it,
Yeah.
and it made me sad, but I also get it.
What was the dog's name?
The dog was Mac. But the kids at school, you know, as they were walking by, they pet him, and, you know, they did more decorating of the dog than I did. So he had seasonal decorations and 4th of July stuff. It was pretty cool. Even people who didn't know the history of the dog liked the dog, because it was just kind of fun. But we now know that wood is probably not a good thing. So, are there any questions or that you want to know, need to know?
Did the city accept any maintenance responsibility? At any
We
point?
actually,
They made it.
we made it. It was a tree that had fallen
Right.
or was diseased and had to be removed. So one of our maintenance workers, one of our senior maintenance workers, he's still with us, Mick Mathis, took a chainsaw and he was able to
took a
recreate
chainsaw dog.
recreate the dog in the stump.
What we thought was super cool was the dog his body is away, but it's like he's looking back at the park, and that was really cool. He's looking back. So,
I feel like just we need to take that picture that you have, and if there's any others, and shop around for artists and materials and just start getting estimates. I mean, right?
yeah, I have no idea how to, our original thought was to try and get the damaged one cast in concrete, and
Well,
that never got happened.
yeah.
On many levels. But other than that, now we can't do that. So I'm not an artist, I don't know the mediums, I'm not.
Has the Arts Commission,
That's what I was just gonna say. Can we reach out with?
Whitney and I were brainstorming a little bit, and that's something that never occurred to me. I don't know how to go about asking about that, or how to
Even be able to find an artist, donate their time as long as they pay for the material. I'm sure someone would.
So I could take it to the Arts Commission.
Okay.
We're meeting next Thursday night. I can take it and just put it on the agenda and see if we could make some movement there. I think there's a path forward.
That would be
So I'm
fun.
hearing.
It might be nice if a Parks Board member or two would want to go, not a quorum, but to also deliver the message and show support. They're also on Teams, right?
They're on Teams, and when I say, go to it, it's actually right here, same place.
So we're definitely open to it. I think it would be very cool. My grandchildren never got to see the dog in his full glory, so that would be really cool. So,
that sounds like a good next step, to go to the Arts Commission and see if they have any interest in either identifying resources for the city to move forward with the support of the family and whoever else wants to, and make it an arts project that can move forward with their support as well.
that'd be awesome.
Other comments or thoughts from anybody else on?
As a former member of the Parks Foundation, I'd like to see this happen. Also, there's the For Culture Grants Program that might be able to come up with the difference in money between whatever we found with the Parks Foundation and what it would cost to pay an artist to go.
the dollar amount?
I believe it was 6,000 was raised and is now sitting and needs to be allocated.
I had no idea it was that much.
Yeah.
Just, so,
And I don't know what any of those things cost, so it's really hard.
I
to
think
know.
that's the first step, is
Yeah.
just like figuring out what we're looking at.
surely more than that, depending on what materials. I mean, if you go metal, it's gonna be a lot.
It didn't seem very big, what, like, ish,
It's about this big.
on the stump and then the dog?
The stump.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
And he was the right height for those first and second graders.
Yeah.
To pet him on the way.
Yeah, so you don't want it too big, because you want it to be like
Yeah.
life size or
Yeah.
whatever, yeah.
So I'm hearing consensus to take the next
Definitely.
step, maybe go to the Arts Commission, see what kind of resources and ideas they may have. I do want to acknowledge Joanne for coming tonight. She was a Parks Board member with us for 12 years. Served the city well, and her husband as well. Steve served the city. A number of her kids obviously have worked for us in various roles, and Doug was one of our team members. So I want to acknowledge just coming here tonight. Really appreciate that.
You look familiar.
It's like old times. It's like, oh wait, I don't sit at that table anymore.
Is anyone else interested in going to the Arts Commission? Jace, you are?
Yeah, I'll go.
Okay,
I'll send you the agenda.
fabulous. All right, well, this is very exciting.
I don't know whether, I don't know. I don't know what's appropriate.
Do you know what day we meet?
Also,
Thursday,
the-
next Thursday, he
We
said.
can watch.
You can watch it. It's very similar to this.
I figured, it just, sometimes there's protocols, and I don't want to step on toes.
I know it's the night.
Thanks.
See how that
Project.
Mhm.
Thanks for acknowledging that, that's pretty cool. All right, thank you. I'm gonna leave you to it.
All right.
Thanks, John.
All right.
So I just had a couple other notes to share. I'll go in chronological order. On September 24th, there is a joint meeting. It's, I guess, going to be rather informal between council and boards and commissions. That will be right here, 6 to 8. And is anyone planning on going
That will be on the, I think that's in the council chambers.
to chambers?
Yeah, so it'll be in the chambers. Blaine and myself will be there, and I believe 6 of you have reserved, if I read it correctly.
To cancel.
I had to make a maybe.
My child's curriculum night.
Yeah, sorry.
That was an email.
Right at the same time.
So what that is it's an opportunity for the boards and commissions to meet with council for the first time. We're actually going to be formalizing that next year. And we'll likely, have a joint meeting with the city council to talk about work plan, talk about some of what their expectations are for the boards and commissions, things like that. But this was more of an informal opportunity for them to, hey, how are things going? What are some things that, we need to be thinking about? Those types of things. So
All of the boards and commissions are going to be represented?
they are at the mixer. Yeah.
Yeah, I like the mix.
Yeah. I'm not being creative here.
And also on October 12th, Arbor Day event, and Blaine was sharing with me that it's going to be at Blythe Park, and I saw the spot that was cleared, and it looks amazing, kind of on the area with the stairs that walk down towards the river. Yeah, it's really cool. I plan on being there.
Is that a Saturday?
October 12th, Saturday.
Multiple soccer
And there's
games.
stuff on social media I already saw was put out, so information is around.
What time is it?
I believe it's 10 a.m. till noon. Is that?
Sounds right.
I think that's when it is. I'd have to double check. I believe that's the plan.
And I'm sure we'll hear more of an update on this, but on October 17th, the Project Bothell Landing open house, the next sort of open house and public engagement for this awesome project is happening, and we're going to be hearing from the consultant and seeing a refined conceptual design. So that should be awesome.
So that actually is going to be here at City Hall. It will be in the council chambers. There'll be a couple activities as well associated with that. So we'll have some roundtable, some exercises. But yes, we are refining it, and we're getting down to a preferred alternative that we want to share out with everyone.
That one's open to the public, you said?
So the public and something else.
Well, that's all I had. Ms. Blaine is out on a conference. Is that where Blaine's at?
She is at a wedding, I believe.
Oh, wedding. Oh, I got my dates mixed up.
Kind of the same thing.
Next month, she'll be at the conference.
Yeah.
Get me for a couple months, and next month we'll also have Aaron here, and Tanisha will be at a conference with Blaine, so.
Okay, that's what I was thinking. All right, well, and Nick, we'll turn it to you to hear an update on general department operations and budget and CFP. Lots of big stuff.
A lot of big stuff. So, well, thank you. Thank you for that. I've got a number of items here, and it won't take too long, but I'll kind of go through them. And certainly if you have any questions, please ask them. I first want to acknowledge both Manny and Sheila for their efforts over the summer being our MC for our summer nights in Bothell program. Both of them are natural at this. I mean, Sheila was kind of playing it off like she had never done this before. I don't believe her at all. She knocked it out of the park, and I've worked with Manny for years and years. So I want to thank you for that, because it was impactful when we have volunteers in the community that come and celebrate some of the great work and the great gathering of the community. When people come together, I just really appreciate your efforts there. It helped us out.
You're very welcome, and it's a labor of love for us too.
Yeah.
I mean, I've always really thought that the Park of Bothell Landing is so important to the community and the events there, and so anything that I can do to help with that effort, I'll be happy to.
Yeah. And we just wrapped that up. So we had 10 actual events after the 4th of July. It was a spread, I'm not gonna lie. I was at every one of them, and it was a lot. But what was really cool is we're really starting to see that success out there. And in our 3rd season of Summer Nights and that programming, you're actually starting to see it build, and you're seeing more people showing up for the events. There was one night, I think it was the Victims of Love concert, Eagles Night.
Yeah.
You could barely walk down there at the Park of Bothell Landing. It was so packed. It was quite amazing. So we're really excited about that. We just finished that up, and now we're going to transition to Trick or Treat on Main Street.
Yes.
So we are super, super excited about Trick or Treat on Main Street. It is our favorite, staff's favorite, event, because we get to all dress up. We get to dress the town up, and there's so many families that come down to this event. So this year, we're kind of going in between. We're not sure if our theme is going to be the bakers of Bothell, like cooks, things like that, or the gardeners of Bothell. We're going to pick one of those. And what I would say is that if any of you are interested in participating, reach out to Blaine. Costumes will be required. You will be required to kind of get into the theme of whatever we've got going on. But we're going to dress up our booth. We're going to make it, a really fun event. So I hope to see you out there. Today, we did close the dog park. So we pulled down the fences today, and I know that can be challenging. I will say, it's always great that we're able to do that, but we're very clear from the get-go that it's really Memorial Day through Labor Day. We didn't have enough staff right after Labor Day to close it down, so we went ahead and pulled it this week. One thing that we did notice today, and it's sort of unfortunate because I think most dog owners are very responsible, but there was a lot of dog poop down there. Hundreds of them. It was pretty amazing. It really on the fence line and stuff. And so we spent a good portion of our day just cleaning that up that had been left there. It's, human behavior sometimes. Like I said, I think the majority of people are responsible. I do think there's some that just for whatever reason, maybe they're distracted, they're just not getting it done, but we did pull that down today, and we expect to hear somewhere between 50 to 100 complaints on that. It's gonna happen.
Bothell Hospital gets some too.
Yeah.
You do, and I work front desk, you're like, oh yeah, where'd the dog park go? And I'm like,
Yeah.
no, I'm kidding, I tell
So we
them.
do reseed it, and that's the other piece of it. So we're gonna go ahead in the next 2 weeks, we're gonna reseed it. It will, if we don't do that, we did that one year where we kept it open too long, and it never grew back, and it was just basically a sand pit, so.
It's amazing how sandy it is in there, because I was taking my dog there, I was like, this is just like a sand pit. It's crazy.
What's the, morale like from crew? I saw everybody out there today. It was like a massive effort, and then to have to do it in your boots, dog poop and all that.
This is what we do. We know what we signed up for, so it's not, in fact, it was kind of fun down there. We love when we have the group projects.
Right, yeah, I bet.
So it wasn't a downer or anything like that. We see this. I mean, we see it in other parks as well. So it's part of the job. We wish people would be more responsible. We try to give them the tools to be more responsible. We put the bags out, we put the garbage cans out, put the signs out, all the things, but.
It's the people that put it in the bags
And
and
then leave it.
Leave it.
Yeah, that's amazing,
It's-
isn't it?
even more mind boggling to
Is
me.
there any thought of maybe offering a day where you reach out to the dog owners themselves and say, look, we're having a cleanup day, and it's necessary because some people haven't been quite as responsible, and, have them come out and contribute to the cleanup. And I know there may be some quality control or insurance things, but I would think that might be a good way to get them involved, get the people who use it involved in trying to keep it up nice.
We have not, but I think that's a great idea and something.
I think especially if there is a permanent one, I think something like that should be.
Oh, yeah, but even the temporary one, it's temporary only in that hopefully someday there'll be another
Yeah.
permanent, but again, it's, as you said, it's on the staff, and, I know the staff, they're not gonna complain, but it's something that might instill a little bit more responsibility too in the people who use it.
Or is it tacit permission that someone else is going to pick it up for you later?
There's no miracle solution.
No.
Every city faces this. I think you've heard me speak about Kirkland before. They actually went out and they flagged every piece of dog that they found, and it was down at, I think, Juanita Beach, and it was like, the whole beach was flags. It was kind of gross, but it was more of a public awareness
Yeah, that's
kind
great.
of thing, so. All right, any more questions on the dog park? All right, so that came down today. Fall soccer season has started, so you're seeing a lot of soccer happening right now. So not only during the week, but on the weekends, we're out there painting the fields. We've got, almost every field is completely booked. And if it's not soccer, it's either lacrosse or we even have cricket that's going on right now. So really excited to see those fields really being utilized right now. And of course, all those awesome games that are happening every weekend. It's a lot of fun to watch. I do have a couple kind of exciting opportunities that have kind of come or floated to the top recently, and just want to share them with you. They're very much in their infancy stage, but we were approached by the Snohomish County WSU Master Gardeners Association, and they were looking to establish a demonstration garden somewhere in Snohomish County. They have a couple of them, but they kind of narrowed it down to 5 different parks, and Centennial Park was one of those parks that they actually was their number one of the 5 that they identified as a possible site for a demonstration garden. What that is, it's a working garden. It's a teaching opportunity. You can show people how to grow, fruits and vegetables, best practices, less herbicide, less pesticide, all those great things, how to compost, things like that. So we see it as sort of kind of an exciting opportunity. Now, for those of you that know Centennial Park, know that it was purchased primarily using conservation features, similar to some of the restrictions that you see on the former Wayne Golf Course. That said, we did reach out to Snohomish County Conservation Futures Board, and they've green-lighted us to continue to move forward in this discussion. They actually see it as passive use, and they really see that educational element being a really positive thing for the park and for the general public. So there are a few steps that we have to take, but what I'd like to do is continue to I'd like to hear from you if that's something you want us to continue to sort of work towards. And if so, I will invite the WSU Master Gardeners to give a presentation to the Parks Board.
Absolutely.
I would
Yeah.
100% think that would be a really good, Centennial has always been kind of, it's a big park.
Huge.
Most of it is kind of inaccessible, and I'd love to see some more stuff going on there. And that would be tremendous. Strongly support that.
Would there be any cost to the city, or would they come in and run all the programming and?
I mean, not a lot of cost to the city. They have funding, they have the resources. We obviously would be partnering with them, so we'd give up some things. What they really like about it is it has a restroom. It has the old schoolhouse where they can do some education indoors, so if it's raining, they bring in a lot of kids, a lot of school kids, a lot of families, so there's an opportunity to use that as well. It has power, it has water. So those are some of the key things that they look for. We also like it because it is a big park. We do have sort of a higher level of crime that sort of happens up there, and not like not like serious crime, but there's a lot of vandalism and things that are happening up in that area. So I think, creating more uses, active uses of the park would be, or passive uses, I should say. On record, it's a passive use of the park would be good for the park system as a whole. So,
I think it's great.
Please move forward.
okay, I will work with them, and we'll set up in one of our meetings, hopefully by the end of the year. They can come and speak to you, and they've got a wealth of knowledge, so much fun to hear from. I also want to tell you about another opportunity that has risen to the top, and that is there is a new committee that has been formed to raise up to $1 million for a skate park here in Bothell. So it's being led by former state senator Rosemary McAuliffe, and she's brought Bill Hogan on, who's the director of athletics at Seattle University, to help sort of spur that fundraising campaign. The idea right now is to raise that money, donate it to the city, and hopefully, I think the idea is to, perhaps put it into the park at Bothell Landing. So we're always interested in having those conversations, and again, it's right at the beginning of this fundraising campaign. But the one thing I do know about former state senator Rosemary McAuliffe is she gets stuff done. So I will not be surprised if we're moving pretty quick on that fundraising as far as that goes. So,
Did we ever get any youth community feedback on the skate park?
we did.
We did?
Yeah, so we didn't necessarily get a lot on the park at Bothell Landing. We did have a few people that showed up. We had a professional skateboarder, a couple others show up. But we have quite a bit of data on that, and most of it was from our last pros plan. We had, almost 2,000 responses on the skate park issue. So just from everyone, all walks of life. A good number of them were youth, though. Yeah.
One of the alternatives on the Park at Bothell Landing designs did have a skateboard park as one of the potential.
Yeah. I mean, it's anytime that people are fundraising, it is a good opportunity because funds are sometimes hard to come by when it comes to construction. And, those opportunities, when it comes from the community, there's also that ownership piece. So We're definitely interested in continuing that conversation.
Rosemary Rosemary very well, and she is a mover and a shaker, and she also has great contacts within the legislature, within the nonprofit arena. So, if anyone can pull that off. And we've often talked about somehow getting the support and the involvement of some of the larger businesses in our business parks. And it would seem to me that that too could be something, if there's $1 million and it takes $1.5 million, that might be something where a big company might lend their name or lend help in that. So I'm not suggesting anything that Rosemary wouldn't come up with on her own. She's outstanding.
So Nick, does it make sense that we invite her and the other gentleman for our,
I,
no, the PL, the event, the review?
she's always invited to, I send her, she's on our
Okay,
list.
okay, so she's
She's
aware of that,
it.
okay.
Like I said, it's in the infancy stages. They're just trying to understand. We did mention to them that was going to be going on, and we're
Okay.
kind of in a process right now.
Okay.
And that, within a month or two, I think we'll be in a better place to have that conversation if that in
Fair.
fact rises to the top and ends up as part of that plan.
There was a woman that I met at one of the Friday or Saturday events. And Mason Thompson introduced me to her, and she's, I guess, involved in this same coalition. I can't recall her name off the top of my head. But they were using a example skate park in Anacortes, I believe, that was sort of what they thought was like the gold standard, and they had this vision of it being like a very like high-end, high-class, like would draw in a lot of people for tournaments and big events and things like that. That was her vision. I invited her to come give public comment at any time and share that with you all here at the meetings, but I have not seen her yet.
I definitely think we'll be hearing more from them. They are organized. So I think, the one in Anacortes is a good example of sort of not only a skate park, but also a pump track, and it kind of, they've worked that in. So I believe they will come to the Parks Board and probably make a formal presentation.
I love the idea of the community. Anytime people want to raise money to do a project they're passionate about, to work with them, that's awesome. The only concern that I would have is just making this like very transparent to the public. So I feel like we've made a really big deal about what we're going to put in the park at Bothell Landing, and I just wouldn't want to like do a switcheroo on the community at the last minute. So just trying to put that out, trying to figure out how to get that into the process so that everyone feels.
Well, the skate park has been part of that conversation.
Yeah.
So it's not, again, we're not at the final, this is the preferred alternative. And part of that is, again, we're going to be coming to the open house. We're going to be asking for, that feedback. We're going to kind of show conceptually as things are the ideas are starting to sort of distill down into one. We're going to show sort of what that looks like.
Is there any way to, I don't know if this is allowed, possible, have the community be at all aware that like, hey, if we put in a skate park, we might have like a lot of funding to do that, or if we don't, I don't know that should be a big,
It's not.
Review what the community wants, so.
With any fundraising campaign, they go out into the community and they raise money. They ask, the donors from the community if they're interested and if they want to. So I will say that I don't think it won't, be a transparent process in the sense of like, they're going to be out in front of it. They're going to be talking about it. They're going to get the community excited about it.
I'd just like to chime up. I'm not so sure the park at Bothell Landing would be the right location for that. In all honesty, I don't. Things that bring with it and maintenance implications. I'm not saying don't do it, but I think somewhere else would make sense.
I was actually thinking it's a good thing because you don't want a skate park isolated either, because if it's isolated, then that's when you have the not so good behavior happening. When you have it mixed with all sorts of activities, families, and lots of people coming through, you're not going to see the groups of people forming that maybe you don't want. You know what I mean? It's
tough.
you get 5-year-olds out there with the 20-year-olds.
I think it's
It's a good thing.
there's some stereotypes, obviously, that come with skating and, sort of that group. And the data doesn't really show that, though. If you really look at it, the data on a nationwide scale, the crime rates aren't like excessive, the noise isn't excessive, all the complaints that you would normally hear. We've had skate parks, we've had 2 of them here. I've been involved in maintaining those skate parks. Certainly we had problems, but no different than any other.
Yeah, I'm more thinking like tagging or smoking or, hanging out with alcohol. That, not crime, but that's where
That
you.
happens at all of our parks.
No, it does, but the more active things and multi-use you have, the busier it is, the less likely groups like that will want to hang out there. But if you had a skate park
Yeah.
isolated in a corner of a park where there's not a lot of activity, you're more likely to be like, oh, this is just gonna be a party spot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I mean, it is all good feedback, and Nick, I appreciate you saying that too, because I think, again, it's this process that we're going through as a community right now, and we need to have voices. We need to have people speak up.
Is there a reason that they're thinking Park or like that was kind of chosen as the location?
Well, I think the reason is that they've seen it come up in the conversation,
Okay, yeah,
so it
okay.
makes sense. I mean, we haven't had a conversation about putting the skate park anywhere really else at this point.
Okay.
Not to say that we couldn't or wouldn't down the road, but they've seen that, and so that's where their interest is.
One of the benefits of that kind of effort too is it's easy to throw out a number like $1 million and say, imagine what it could be, but when it gets right down to deciding what you want to support, I mean, there are lots of designs of skate parks, and it can be 5 acres worth of skate park. It could be a very small skate park. It could include a pub track and whether it, what kind of materials are you talking about? And I mean, we had wood.
Yeah, we did. Would.
Yes. And so as they drill down, that's going to be very important for that group to talk about what kind are we looking for? And that may have an influence on siting as well. I mean, if you're talking about a large tournament design, you're talking about a lot of space and probably more need for parking, et cetera. So as they go through that, I think that'll help us in our efforts to support, whether it be at the Park of Bothell Landing or some other site. I just think it's synergy, the more you have people talking, the more there's going to be a discussion about, I mean, maybe there's anyway, that's.
And there's a lot of details to work out. Again, it's at that beginning stage. The idea's there.
Yeah.
They have now formed a committee. It's a formal
great.
committee, and they are starting to work towards a plan to raise money. So.
Fantastic.
The other thing I would just add, today I was actually quickly doing some research on what engages teens into parks for Park about the Landing, because we'd had that discussion. And it was a very interesting dichotomy with skate parks in particular about how they're viewed, but in some of the research studies is also showing that that is actually a really big driver for teen uses of parks if they're seen to be well maintained. So, I mean, it could be a good benefit to our teenagers, like something to draw them in.
Especially if they have a pump track with them,
Yeah.
because the little kids use the.
That park is big when you think about that big, the big gravel lot and the pop-up dog park area. When you include that in the space, which we normally don't because it's not part of our developed space right now, it's huge. So it can, even if it's off in the, far east side, it's like, I think maybe not stadium, maybe not like tournament style. I don't even know what that involves, but yeah, I mean, I think it's at one end and not even hear the, clanking of the skateboards hitting the pavement.
I will say that the process will, that we're going through right now will help drive the discussion as well, because it's not the fundraising effort will drive the discussion, it's the other way around. We're already we're quite a ways along in this conversation about what we're going to do with the park at Bothell Landing. We're starting to get all of those ideas and we're starting to boil them down into one. So that's what you're going to see. You're going to start to see at the open house. And that's a great opportunity to comment and where you fall.
What's the committee called that she formed?
I don't know if they have an official
You
name
said it was
for
a
it.
forum, do they just have a website or anything?
I don't believe they've built that website yet. I'm not sure that they'll even go for a website. The people that they have on the committee have a lot of experience raising large chunks of money.
Okay, so is there gonna be a way we can go, like, a view, other than communicating with you, view like their plan or anything like that, or?
Well, right now they don't have a plan. I think their plan is to donate the money to us.
It's to raise the money, they're not building it.
I don't think they're planning on building this.
I got you, all right.
And like I said, as it sort of, comes together, I'll certainly, invite them or ask Whitney to invite them to the Parks Board to give a presentation. Well, speaking of presentations, so next month, we're going to have some guests from our community development department, and they're going to do a presentation on our development of our urban forest management plan. So we went out for an RFP and we got a consultant on board. They want to engage both with the Planning Commission and the Parks and Rec Board frequently. So this will be sort of just a general kickoff to say, here's what we're starting to do. Here's the work that we're starting to take on. And they see, the Parks Board certainly is a large stakeholder in this conversation. So they're going to be seeking some feedback from each of you on the development of that plan. So
Who's the contractor?
What's that?
Who's the contractor?
I'm not sure who their consultant is. It's not a contractor, but consultant.
Yeah.
So, but it's going to be a staff member. It's not going to be the consultant here.
Oh, okay.
Moving on, the capital projects, all of our capital projects are progressing sort of as planned. We don't have a lot to present to you tonight. Aaron will be with us in October. He'll give a full update of our capital projects. I do, however, want to point out that we've talked a little bit about this in the Parks Board, but we've been doing our court resurfacing. So I'll pass these pictures around. We are resurfacing the courts at William Penn Park, Conifer View Park, Stipek Park, and Brickyard Road Park. So we've lined them for pickleball. At Stipek, we're setting up the full basketball court. We did have an interesting situation over at Conifer View. As we were out there painting, or our contractor was painting, somehow a rogue goat got out of someone's yard or whatever and kind of like came right into it and walked all over it. You will see, we cleaned it up pretty good, but if you go to Conifer View, you will see some little goat feet on the court.
Probably shouldn't laugh, poor
I
guy.
mean, who would have thought?
I mean, yeah, the timing on that.
That's cute.
That was the first time that I've heard of the goat situation.
Feet okay?
The goat is fine. I tell you, I saw it the other day. I'm like, yeah, it's totally fine. But that's an,
Striping is for multi-use, pickleball and tennis, and then do you find conflict?
we don't really have any tennis courts. I mean, the one that we had was Brickyard Road Park. But it's really pickleball. That's what they're using it for.
Wondered.
Yeah. And then Stipek is really just a basketball court. It's a full court. So that project will be wrapping up in the next week or so. But there's a couple of the finished pieces there, so that's exciting. We talked a little bit about donations, and one of the things that we realized last year was we did not have anything in our code that allowed us to take donations, sponsorships, or create partnerships. And we are required by RCW to have a policy. So we've been working feverishly with the finance director on creating that policy. We're really close to being able to take that to council, and I'm hopeful that as we come into next year, we'll be able to go after sponsorships for our events. We'll be able to accept donations without having to take every single one, even if it's $100 to council. You know, we'll have that process and that policy in place, but that is coming, so I'm really excited about that.
I have a question.
question on that. I saw like on the Sustainamania posters that they have sponsorships. How is it that, like, I'm just trying to understand that Public Works can accept it, but not Parks? Is it not a copy and paste kind of situation?
So the sponsorships that they have, I believe, are like Recology and,
ABCU?
yeah, I mean, it's been kind of loose. It really has. We were really concerned about that though, because there's not consistency throughout the city. And so we're working on it. I mean, I don't know the answer to that because the fire department has done the same thing. But we were the department that actually brought it to the attention of legal and said, you know, it does not exist. And we were trying to work through a pretty significant donation at the time. And that created a lot of problems for us. So it involved someone giving us like $70,000 in stock that we have to sell day of that we receive it because there's a lot of process anyway. But so the policy's coming. I think it will be in place here shortly, which is really, really exciting. Yeah.
I've been actually thinking about this for years. Is there a way that we can let the public make small donations to improve parks? And the thing I always think about is I sit at Stipek Park. It might not be like, oh, not Stipek, what's the one? Concord View. And I look at the basketball hoop and like the net is just demolished. And I'm like, I could easily give the Parks Department $20 to like do like little things that like, I mean, I am not going to be able to afford to give large sums of money, but I think that there are probably community members that would be willing to give small sums to like help things along.
Yeah, so as part of that policy, it will identify what sort of a restricted donation is, meaning that if you're giving something that is for a specific purpose versus an unrestricted and how we handle that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it will open doors. So
Just donate the actual
Or just
thing and then put it in.
I'm like, do I just walk up and put the one up here?
basketball hoops actually are really well used. There's a couple local leagues that use them on the weekends. So any other questions on that? If not, I'm going to jump to budget real quick. So with August behind us, council took August off, but with August behind us, we have a few months left before we have to pass our biennial budget, so our 2025, 2026 operating budget, our 2025 through 2031 capital facilities budget, and then all the different things that go with that. So basically where we're at right now is our first big preview with council is going to be October 8th. And that's going to be where Kyle, our city manager, presents a overview of what our budget is going to look like this year, or what the request is, the proposed budget. And then following that, October 15th, we're going to get into the details of our proposed budgets for the operating budget, the capital facilities budget, property tax increase, and the utility rates. And then through a series of study sessions and public hearings in November, we're going to go through that, and we hope to adopt the budget in December. We don't hope, we have to adopt the budget by law in December. So there's a ton of work. Every single council meeting has a budget item tied to it for the rest of the year. And it also has a comprehensive plan piece to it as well, because that is also wrapping up and needs to be completed by the end of the year. So there is a lot of work that's happening right now. I would encourage you to watch the October 8th meeting on our YouTube site if you can't attend it, just to get that brief, that sort of overview. Council will be given opportunities to ask tons of questions, and staff probably won't have all the answers for those, or they may have ideas. So we'll take all that information in, and we'll be bringing it back, but it will be a very transparent process. So, whatever your interests are, as you see that information out there, I'll encourage you to reach out to me. If you have questions, you can always reach out to your council if you have questions as well. You can reach out to Kyle if you have questions. We're all here to hopefully answer those, but it is a sprint from this point forward. We're digging in and going to be working super hard to get all that stuff completed. And it's a lot. So some long meetings in front of us, but I think there'll be a good product at the end.
Will there would it be appropriate, right word, or advisable to have park board input into the park proposals?
So the way that we did the budget this year was we created a one city budget.
Okay.
And by that, I mean, we came together as directors and we took everyone's proposals. We had 250 or something proposals, and we knew how much money that we had to kind of get it down to. So we put, that together, and then we gave our recommendation to our city manager. It is the city manager's job to take that budget and present it to the council, and probably council's number one job, as a council member, is to pass the budget. And so I think there'll be an opportunity for me to present to you what the parks budget is, and there'll be opportunity for you to give feedback to council members, to give feedback to us. We already had the capital facilities plan here. There's some opportunities like that. But I don't know if there's a formal role for you in the budget process at the moment.
Yeah, and I'm not advocating for one, but at some point, if it would be helpful, as you described it, it's like they're going to approve the whole city budget, and then they're not going to probably want to play around with each department's budget, because then you go where do you end at. But at some point, if you feel like a motion to support the Parks Department's proposed budget as it fits in with the rest of the city's budget, I think we would be happy to do that. I don't know if that would be beneficial or not, but if you feel like it would be.
I would certainly ask if I felt like, but
I know you
I will say that this year's process has been different. It's been, this is Kyle's first chance to sort of put his print on the budget. And he has taken a one city approach, which is totally different than we've done in the past. We've really taken it department by department, and we've gone up there and we've given our, spiel and said, this is why we're important. And we've it was set up this sort of like competition almost during budget time. We took a totally different approach this time. And, I'm excited about it. I think there's some really good things in there for parks in particular. I can't really have that conversation right now because it's Kyle's job to take it to council first. But as soon as he does that, I certainly am more than happy to kind of go over, the finer details of that.
That sounds very helpful, because as having put together exactly that, having been the city manager when budgets go forward, the individual department process, which went on forever, every time while I was there, and that means you're competing against other departments. And try and compete with police and fire.
Yeah.
Or streets, or the things that people say are unnegotiable. Not that the police and fire would ever try and take advantage of that, but so not having to compete on a department by department level, but what does the entire city need, recognizing the importance of quality of life along with public safety and maintenance of the streets, et cetera, I think is a refreshing way to look at it. Hope it's successful.
Yeah. And I think, it's been good. I mean, we have a really strong leadership team. We've all been able to come together to the table. We've all been able to say, hey, weigh some of these things out. Like, we have to think about it as a community, and so that's been a really, really good approach. Council's still going to have tough decisions. We don't have an endless supply of money. We don't, there's decisions to be made. There's decisions to be made. How much, do we ask our taxpayers to foot the bill for? There are certain things that we have to have those conversations and understand, where they're at. They have some tough decisions, but I will say the city in general, if you've been watching the council meetings, Finance Director Quan Wong, who was here, we're in a pretty good spot. A lot better than other cities are, and a lot better than other school districts are right now. And it's been because we've been really conservative. We did really hard cuts, and I will tell you, it was Parks Department probably faced some of the deepest cuts in the entire, organization. Those were really, really tough. I will say that right now, we're in a much stronger position than we were, back then. And we're also much more relevant. I mean, the irony of COVID, and I've talked a little bit about that, is that the recognition of parks, the recognition of the importance of these spaces and what they bring to the community. The only place you could go at times during COVID, that brought a deeper appreciation, I think, to parks and really kind of leveled the playing field a little bit. So we're actually part of the conversation now and not, sort of like nice to have. This is really, we have to have parks.
Good to hear, good to hear.
Just as like a process thing, so, I mean, right now it's September, the next, you said October 8th is when Kyle is presenting the budget, so like, we won't meet prior to that. So really, the budget is being presented directly to council, so if we were to provide any feedback on the budget, it would be then in those November public hearings,
Correct.
right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's, I know this was a different way that we've done the budget process, but it sort of sometimes feels like Parks Board doesn't provide feedback on budget. Like, we do hear a little bit about CFP before it goes to council, but we haven't ever heard anything about budget before it goes to council. So I guess I just want to acknowledge that and then highlight the November public hearings. And then I'm curious, like, in the budget, does it include additional staff, like building capacity?
Well, so the budget ask includes a lot of things. And I think the important part is, like, we need to let the city manager present that forward. That doesn't mean council's going to approve every single thing. There are positions, for sure. There are, resources, there are materials, there are programs, there are, all of those things are in the budget. But it's council's really choice whether or not to move forward with those. We are making our expert proposal based on our professional knowledge of how to operate, what we need to do, where the community's at, all the conversations that we've had. We're presenting that forward to the city manager. He's taking it forward to the council. What I can do is I do actually have the budget schedule, which shows every single meeting and what's going to be happening that night. That could change a little bit, but this is the budget, so this would give you an opportunity to certainly chime in. And then if there's a parks issue in particular that I know is going to be discussed that night, I will let all of you know and try to inform you as best I can. So, I mean, the capital facilities plan this year was very different as well. In the past, we've had a capital facilities committee, which had a Parks Board member, had a Planning Commission member, and had council members, and then had some staff. Council gave very, very direct direction to staff to change that. They wanted to be the Capital Facilities Committee. And so that's, it in some ways, that touch that the Parks Board had for that was now council's touch. And that's their
I mean, you bring it like, you want to help advocate for budget, but I don't know what you're advocating for, you know what I'm saying,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Well, I hear what you're saying. I think that's a very good point. And, it's going to be a function of when is the right time and what's the right mode to do that. And obviously, we're going to need more. For me, if Nick asks for a particular item, or if something's coming up that he's aware that the council might be going like this or like that, and he feels like the board could have an influence, or at least have input, then I think it would behoove you to let us know and then move forward.
What I will commit to is, once Kyle has had his opportunity to present to the council, I will bring our budget, and we can get to whatever level of detail that you want to. I can, it is transparent. It is a public budget. It is a public document. So, right now it's a process for us. And I just want to make sure that I don't get ahead of a process and let that process take place. But I will commit to walking you through the budget proposal that we made and where it's, some of the conversations that are being had. So that is the summation of my report.
I have a question on CFP that sort of came to me in the middle of the night after our last meeting. And I recall in the CFP, one of the things that was fully funded was the inclusive playground at Cedar Grove, which was like awesome, you know, in that moment, having that fully funded. But going back, hiring Harper's Playground as a consultant, one of the selling points was that they do a lot of their own fundraising.
Yeah.
So where are we standing with that? Are we just saying, thanks for the offer to help fundraise, but we're going to just include it in our CFP?
No, so we're looking at, well, first of all, we're looking for inclusive playgrounds to be a part of everything moving forward. So it's not just Cedar Grove. So we see opportunities to raise money, you know, for other playgrounds. One of it, you know, one of the ideas that we had with trying to fund the actual inclusive playground is kind of a strategy piece. And the strategy is if we, you know, we're going to go through the pros plan next year and we're going to determine, you know, is there a possible levy in our future? One of the strategies that we see is that if we can show that we're already delivering things, you know, that can help sell what potentially could be a bigger levy that could help us, you know, really sustain our operations and build into the future and grow where we need to grow. So I think it's more of a strategy than anything else. We fully intend to continue to, you know, engage with Harper's Playground to look at where opportunities are through our donations, our sponsorships, our partnerships, and how we can, you know, utilize all of those tools to kind of make sure that what we're doing, and particularly with playgrounds, these are legacy projects. They last for 20 plus years in a lot of cases. Make sure that we're not, you know, putting in what we've always put in, which is playgrounds that are quite inaccessible. So that's our bigger plan for that.
I have a minor detail request, and then I was reviewing some of the playground results today and was thinking back on a comment that was made a long time ago that I just didn't know how to respond to in the moment. But the comment and the questions are essentially, do you like spinning, twisting, like sliding, swinging, like something like that, you're right. And the comment that was made was something about like, well, some families like spinning and some families like swinging, and I 100% see where that comment, what that means, and it is my own context that I just wanted to add in, is that, and I don't think everyone is aware of this, but it's very intrinsic to my knowledge, is that kids need to move in every single direction for the development of the vestibular system. And so I really, that one kind of drives me a little nuts, because kids need to swing, spin, and go in every direction as many times as physically possible. But it also kind of got me on, so just some feedback there. It's not necessarily badly worded. I totally understand what you're going for when you ask it. But the other thing I've just kind of been thinking about, and I wanted to gauge interest, is when we talk about playgrounds and we talk about play and what we're developing, sometimes what I've realized is that things that I've learned that seem really intuitive to me maybe aren't shared by the whole community. And I was wondering if it would be helpful for other people on the board as we think about this, if we did have someone come in and just go through like the basics of like what to look for each developmental stage, of like 0 to 3, this is what they should be doing on the playground. This is the kind of things that you would want. 3 to 5, this is what they're doing on the playground. This is the type of things you might want to include in your design. 5 to 8, this is like emotionally and physically like. So I don't know if that would be helpful to people to have someone come in and just give like a very upper level overview of things to look for, just when we're designing parks. Or
I think it's an interesting conversation. We have had those conversations. Mm-hmm. So we worked with Kindred, we worked with Sorensen, we worked with the Alyssa Burnett Center. Yeah. We've heard a variety of things. Yeah. one of the things that's kind of stuck with me is that every single one of them, I thought, gosh, we're trying to design the most perfect park that addresses every issue that's out there. Every single one of them, one of the first things they said to us was, you're not going to be able to do that. And what we look for are specific things in different parks, and then we'll go to that. If the child we're working with or the adult we're working with needs to, work on whatever skill or this is where they're at, that's where they're going to go.
Yeah, yeah.
And so that was really kind of an eye opener for us, because we were thinking of it more of like, how could we make this like so inclusive that everyone could come here, and that was, as they said, if that's your goal, if that's your North Star, you're never going to hit it.
But also the importance of having a bigger picture plan of like, let's have different things so we can have different opportunities and different
I
places.
mean, it especially came up during the fencing conversation. So, there's a term, I don't know if it's elopers or runners or kids that will tend to run away, even adults that will tend to run away. So what I heard from the experts in the field was, it doesn't have to be every park, but if you had one park, that had a fence, that would be something that we would use. That's something we would go to. That's something that our clients would feel safe at, So it was that kind of feedback that really drove it home for us.
Could you give that presentation?
Yeah.
Well, I could, but I would probably try, I know a lot of people that know that information. Like, if you want to talk about not tearing your ACL, I can give you a great. But child development, I know the basics of it, and I could definitely give the presentation, but there are a lot of other people that I know that could also probably do it a lot better than I could do it, that would probably be happy to do something like that, or I could maybe even find a student that could do it, so.
I'd love to do it, especially before we see the plans come back, right? Like,
Yeah, I'm just thinking like just a general overview. I know, Nick, that you could talk to, but I know not everyone in this room might necessarily know those big.
I would
kind of
love it.
things.
Because that also helps for me, that I can speak to the community in those terms also. So that would be helpful, yes.
And if for some reason we can't get someone to speak, maybe if you have like any recommendations for resources
Actually,
that you
like
could send us, or even like just in general, if you
I
could
have
send
like a
us some resources.
spreadsheet, yeah.
Spreadsheet, there you go. Something like
Age,
that.
this, do this at this age, yeah.
I think that would be absolutely beneficial.
Does your age thing go over 12? Because I feel like kids do like to play on playgrounds, even teenagers, but they're too childish. Like, has that been played out? Have we looked, is that anywhere? We keep on talking about teens, well, what about climbing structures for teens?
So it's not only teens, it's adults. And so
Yeah.
we've had that conversation with Alyssa Burnett Center in particular.
Yeah.
In different developmental stages, there's like different focus of what the kid's gonna be really interested in, so like, I know the littler stuff really well right now, because my kids are little, but like at 2, you parallel play, you don't play with each other. Age 3, you don't even start to play with each other until age 3, so if you're gonna design your playground, like, you don't if it's a little kid, 1 to 2-year-old playground, like, they're not gonna face each other and play together, they're gonna be like next to each other, so just knowing that. And then, age 3, you start playing together, and then age 5 is more like games, like more conceptual games. So like each stage you actually do something different, and the teenage stage has more to do with like competition and sports. And that's a bigger conversation that I haven't really brought up.
Obstacle course kind of style thing.
Well, and one problem that we see with the teens, especially it really starts at age 8, but really prominent at age 12, is that if you're not good at your sport, you drop out of your sport. And that's actually a huge problem, because then you get lost. And so making sure that we have opportunities for people to play sports that aren't these elite academies, where they feel like they can still go and play. Because a lot of, unfortunately, our clubs, if you're not good, eventually.
I guess I would offer up, I think
Yeah.
there's a great nexus to, discussion that we're going to have in the pros plan
Yeah.
about recreation programming.
Yeah.
And,
What do we
you know,
do?
what does that look like as we build that out in the future? That's going to be one of the, you know, points that we're going to really focus in on in the pros plan. So I think that would be a great.
Yeah, and that goes all the way to
Opportunity to have that
adults,
discussion.
right? We don't have the opportunity, and we've talked, you know, I
It's-
know that's in the
it's a
pro
lifetime.
plan. I know that's
Yeah,
in,
it's a lifetime.
yeah, I can try to pull up some more. This is, I don't know the teenage stuff off the top of my head as well as other things. but I can pull it up.
Comment?
So I just play areas, so we can't, like Nick was saying, we can't be all things for all people. We need to keep that in mind. You know, they're designed for 2 to 5-year-olds and then 5 to 12-year-olds. You can catch some of what you want, but you really gotta be careful about that. And there's a huge safety aspect that we really want to be cognizant of. You want these playgrounds to challenge and have people grow. But we need to keep the kids safe from unforeseen hazards that they don't understand. And that puts a lot of restraints on what you can put, where you can put it, and the activities at each park. So it's like Nick was saying, I think you target things in different areas, and then the people that want them, they'll go that. You can't just have everything for everybody at every park. Just
And Nick makes that.
Make aware of that.
That's a great distinction because, you know, oftentimes people say, well, why do you have to hire all these consultants and why do you have to, you know, have engineers? And it really does boil down to, we need engineers, we need, you know, consultants who, this is their expertise. And this really is about safety at the end of the day. I can think of the idea and they can probably build it, but it has to meet a standard. And if it doesn't meet that standard, then you're really wasting your time and more importantly, you're putting people in a situation that's not safe. And if we don't create safe spaces for people to go and play and learn and explore, then we miss our mark.
Motion to adjourn?
So move?
second.
Motion to adjourn, seconded by Nick. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, see you guys at the open house, mixer, all the things. Sorry?
Or curriculum night.
Yeah, or.